Well, I asked Coach St. John just how, I guess, mind-blowing a stat it is that Younger as a heavyweight has 44 takedowns and has surrendered one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you look at how he's developed and fit into that role, I mean, could he have kind of had a more perfect transition than he's had so far?
I don't think that's very surprising to me. And any major fans, I think, that realize his explosiveness. I think that we had hoped that probably the transition up to heavyweight would work really well for his style, and it obviously has, because he's maintained his strength and his speed, all the things that really help him there. So, I don't know if that's surprising, but, I guess the biggest test for us is to continue to go up against the top guys, like the very tip top, especially when it comes to heavyweight, and see if you can execute on those guys. And for him, it's going to be that smart, right? Because you'll watch him wrestle and he likes to throw it out there, but when that's a big body over there, sometimes they're going to squash you. So that's a big thing that we continue to try to just remind him, like, hey, you're doing an awesome job. Keep throwing it out there, but we got to keep growing. We got to keep developing in those areas.
I know going through the Cliff Keen, as he did, he beat a number of ranked guys. But probably hasn't faced a guy of exactly the caliber you're talking about that's that big that if he makes that one little mistake, it's like, oh, I'm a 240 guy against a 285 guy. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we keep joking. I think the other day, Coach Dresser said in the room, there's that picture of him lifting Davidson up in the air, and again, us as coaches, we want to keep their minds, growing, being like, hey, you're not going to do that to Colton Schultz. But and our comment is, but if you do, then I guess we're wrong, and prove us wrong. But so he continually surprises, I think, everybody with his ability and what he can do. So yeah, we'll see. It's exciting.
When he did lift his opponent and Cliff Keen, did you guys know he was thinking about doing it, or did he literally just do it in the moment?
I mean, of course, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I think you guys have seen enough out of him. We see it sometimes in the room, but it happens most in competition, obviously, because that's when he's really going all out. When he hits a sort of shot like that, I equate it to like his fireman's, where he just uses his hips and picks guys up. So I've seen a version of that a lot of times. So watching it, I didn't panic. I was like, all right, well, there we go. You lifted him up. Now how are we going to finish this thing? Once you got the guy in the air and then put him on the ground, it's two different things. So yeah, I don't know if we don't practice him doing that. That's just what he does. Yeah.
What is training with him like in the room? Do you guys kind of approach it differently to, help keep, not necessarily cage in his explosiveness, but make sure he's doing it in a way that's going to find him successful?
No, I think it's just little tweaks, especially this year for him. Just kind of explain to him, and this is development as a wrestler as a whole. All this stuff could have helped him last year at 197 too, but just understanding, not diving yourself in there. And I'm going to use David Carr because he's a good example of, David gets long and extended and he's able to just suck something up. When you got a big heavyweight, you're probably not doing that. And he's gotten away with some of that in the past. So that's just a developmental piece. Like, hey, we got to have it. We got to pick the right shots. We got to set the guy up. We got to hit. Our hips got to be underneath us. So little things like that. So from that point of view, yeah, it's just continuing his development, continuing his kind of shot selection, if you want to call it. But those things would translate at whatever weight class he was at. But.
Talked about it a little bit, but Casey Swiderski obviously started the year he did the Edge of Media and then bounces back, gets his way into the lineup. I mean, what have been your thoughts on him so far this year and his response and how he's come out since then?
No, I think he's shown a lot of growth. I think that was maybe a chink in his armor last year was, wearing his emotions on his sleeve a little bit, and getting so frustrated, or if you have a match that maybe you'll lose because you just accidentally locked your hands at the end, and not having that be a disaster and realizing that, let's just grow and build for the next thing. So that's a lot of the growth that I've seen out of him. That's really exciting to me because I know how great of a wrestler is inside of there. I know the sort of stuff that he could do, but the process of becoming, and he wants to be number one, the process of becoming number one sometimes is a process. And you don't get to just jump from freshman to number one, right? You've got to take it on the chin sometimes, right? You got to work your way back down to find a way back up a little bit. So I'm really proud of his attitude that he's kind of so far been doing. I saw a video of him after the Iowa duel and just I was really proud of him and just kind of the leadership mentality and the way that he spoke. I thought was a really, from a coach's point of view, I saw just a lot of growth there, right? And you're going to get that, when you come in and you're 18, 19 years old, however old he was as a freshman, you don't know much, so you're kind of winging it, well, he's a year in, he knows a year's worth of more information, right?
You're both Michiganders. I mean, when you had your eye on him, maybe back then, I mean, what did you think of him at the time?
Honestly, the biggest thing is just the attitude, the hustle, the pace. Obviously, he comes with a ton of skills, a ton of, his explosive ability, his ankle pick stuff. A lot of that stuff is stuff that I say, like, you kind of can't teach. The guys have to either have that feel, they don't. So that was exciting to me. But the biggest thing out of him was I knew that, and this is going to be cliche, but, like, he was a grinder, right? He was a guy that wanted to wrestle hard from whistle to whistle. A guy that gets it up here, and by that I mean sometimes you got to be a little kooky. So when I explain some crazy ideas and mentality and like, hey, here's how we operate and how our mindset thinks, he gets it, So that was a thing early on that I kind of recognized and reason why, we worked hard to get him.
St. John talked about how him and Anthony's as teammates have really grown and come a long way from maybe where they were at the wrestle-offs to where they are now with Anthony bumping down. How have you seen them progress in the room as teammates, as partners, and really how have you seen Anthony impact the room since joining the team?
He's obviously really great competitor. He's super talented. So him entering the room raises the level of our room. What happened with that situation, I think, is where you've got egos and you've got two guys competing and it sorted itself out, right? And I think that there's a lot of maturity between both of them to kind of fit in the way that we fit in, whether it was for personal reasons or team reasons, it don't even matter. But it has right now worked itself out really well. And I can see, I don't know, it's exciting. You don't know how things are going to play out, and it's exciting to sit back and watch and be like, wow, like this has really worked itself out in the best case scenario. And by that I mean both of those guys are better off than where they were, preseason, right? As far as their wrestling, as far as their attitudes coming in every day, as far as teammates with one another and the rest of the team around them. So it's the whole deal has been really good.
I know Coach Dresser often says, even though you never want to lose, you'll probably learn more about yourself and how you respond to one. Obviously, David hasn't had to respond to many, just his fourth coming up, maybe a little bit fluky, perhaps, at the Cliff Keens. But I'm sure you know what type of response he's going to have, but just how has he been in the room since then? He obviously won his next couple.
He's been good. One thing about David is he's got a great attitude, and that's really big for this sport because if you let it keep you down, it'll keep you down, right? So he's got a great attitude. The thing is that he's been driven, all year. So to say that, oh, well, he's got this renewed drive is false because he knows there's a number, one in particular, that he's chasing every single day. So, I mean, the drive's been there. If anything, it's a slap in the face. And by that I mean that when you come to practice every day, it's like, hey, like, I have to grow. I got to continue to develop. I got to continue to, push myself in my wrestling. I can't just think that what I'm doing is going to be enough. And maybe that's how I take it. Because I've seen a little bit different guy. His motivation is the same, but I could see him grasping onto ideas as far as like a pace and a style of wrestling that does not let a guy like that get away with doing nothing for the entire. And this isn't doing nothing with David Carr is a great strategy. Honestly, try to get it in the end. So this isn't me throwing mud. It's just you got to realize how these people are going to try to beat you, and you can't stand around with them, right? Because they might. You're just flipping coins in the end. Right? So he's kind of embraced that a little bit and realizing like, hey, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be coming down to who wins the scramble in the end. You know what? You usually win it, David, but let's not do that. So that's something kind of renewed I've seen out of him is he doesn't want that either. He gets that. He understands that. And just like every one of these other guys, it's going to serve his development down the road. Right? So some of the other really tough opponents that he's going to have in that weight class, I mean, it's an unbelievably tough weight class. And then beyond that, his aspiration is to be a world Olympic champion. There's going to be a lot of different levels there too. So you don't want to lose, but my kind of comment to him was like, hey, well, we got it over for the year, you know, because it seems like you always kind of have one that gets you. So let's just move forward and keep growing.